Anubhav-Amrit as understood. Versical translation of Dhyandeva's Anubhav-Amrit by Shri Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj in English. Om Shri Gurudev Mangalacharan. Introductory prayer to Almighty God. Translation of original Sanskrit shlokas written by Dhyandev. Imperishable, undefinable principle ultimate. Ever blissful is the state, beyond birth and death. One without the second. That's why called alone. I surrender to the deity, Shri Nivrittinath, well known. Shankari Vidya, its self-worth, is known as Guru all over the world. Glory to her commandment, which led me from ignorance to enlightenment. And to her, my salutation, the form of pure compassion. Such is her compassion ever flowing, duality distance dissolving. Shiv Shakti is unique relation. Question arises without solution. Whose better half is fused with whom? As duality can never find room. Such is their united stature that they became Advaita indicator. With this desire, I bow to couple. May I know their nature real? As they are the world's father and mother, root causeless cause and no other. He, the root cause of the whole creation, himself becomes world's existence, in whom takes place dissolution. Yet, beyond all these succession, who is the form of perfection? To that Purna Shambhu, my prostration. Chapter 1. Fusion of Light and Love. Thus, to Shiv and Shakti, without the conditioning condition, father and mother to the whole creation, the root causeless cause and the origin, to God and Goddess, my humble oblation. Love divine loves egoless lover. Extrovert turns as introvert where ego and self then embrace each other. Beauty, unity and fraternity rule forever. Because of the forceful mutual love, both appear swallowing each other or taking refuge in two-ness only. Each helps other to appear separately. The two are not one, but being alike. Their two-ness does not suffice. Their external forms indicate nothing, for both are the self and being. Wonderful is the longing for their own happiness that brings two in togetherness, and yet not allowing and their dual appearance to break their unitary existence. Shiv and Shakti, fearing separation, merging themselves in union, gave birth to the whole creation, without breaking two-ness in fusion. Upon their united union, seeing animate, inanimate projection, and yet unaware of the world known, for that third they feel no repulsion. Highest blissful love is their common seat, fecundating themselves with one delight, since time's unknown flight, living as one peaceful sight. Their two-ness makes difference feel shy, diving deep into love, that's why. They hide and seek to fathom the divine joy, both play the game of duality to enjoy, because of whom Goddess attains perfection, and God is nobody without her exertion. Rather, both are two in one, appearing to live joint life in union. How sweet this union of love and light. The world falls short to express that delight. Even then, in every minutest atom, both live happily despite narrow freedom. These two, without the other's help, taken, cannot create a blade of grass even. Totally dependent on each other is the reason, considering each one as pran, begotten. Everywhere the two alone are together, but when he goes to bed unaware, the wife appears all alone awake, although truly with him she does make. Perchance anyone of the two falls asleep, forgetting their love too. The whole worldly life would then end, being swallowed by nothingness to attain. Engrossed in narrowing their two-ness, they establish constantly their oneness, throwing out differences that the form of the world take, although in every distance they both partake. These two are each other's object, as well as each other's also subject, but both are happy in their relation, blissfully living united in action. By the different name as man and woman, Shivhood, the divine light governs alone. Yet, not a single thing in the whole world is there where both light and love have not equal share. Wooden play sticks to produce but one sound. Two flowers on one tree spread same smell around. As lamps two throw but only light, so is unity in diversity, world's highlight. Two lips produce one word, eyes too, but sight is no second. Similarly, the two create one world that lives like them as one without second. Though appearing in two-ness, they drink but one juicy peacefulness. Thus, man and woman, lover and beloved around, the pair of two is beginninglessly found. Without her, Lord Shiva's lordship, the wife Shakti knows not any worship. The same way, without her ladyship, the Lord Shiv can have no doership. The appearance of her Lord is she, and her power means he. Their being and becoming so mingled cannot be separately dismantled. Sweetness and good, that is jaggery, fragrance and camphor, can these be shown separately? One would try, but lamely. To grasp total and whole light, one has to hold the lamp, all right. Similarly, taking hold of Shakti, what is attained is Shiv, the divinity. As in the sun, sunlight shines. To know sunshine, sunness one denies. So efforts to differentiate the two leads one to find them, swallowing differences too. As is original necessary for reflection, so reflection measures original formation. Similarly, their apparent duality only shows off their unity. Shiv is the remnant of nothingness, so Shakti makes him full of henpeckedness. Even then, Shakti's existence is the outcome of Shiva's governance. Shakti is Shiva's beloved. Without Shakti, Shiva's Shivhood, even for a moment, lasts not. Yet, Shakti is only Shiv made lot. God Shiva's prosperity is due to Shakti's entity, embracing entity when Shiv stands majestically. His stand means this world eventually. Because her Lord is without form, feeling rather shy, she showed off her own form. Then this world of form and name was projected, decorating him with fame. There is famine of oneness, of unity, and yet the creation is full of variety. How then is that? Because of Chitti's play, Sadaiva appears as many as Hede. Narrowing her body, she made her husband somebody, and by narrowing himself in the fashion same, he gave his beloved his prestige and fame. Because of the longing to see her, excited Shiv became the onlooker. Not seeing her, his excited stands, he throws away as he understands. To regard his wife's persuasion, he extended himself into the world formation. But without her he is not, though exists, but manifest not. In reality, up to his moment, what in his slow throbbing he forgot, his spiritual wealth bringing forward, for her sake took the form of this worth world. Awakening and making Shiv aware of himself, then this knowable vast universe itself. Considering Shakti great feast to him, Shiv enjoyed it, satisfying his great whim. While her husband is asleep, she gives birth to creation deep. If she rests a little and creates nothing, her husband's husbandhood has no meaning. When her Lord conceals himself, he forgets her and the world itself. But once to her he pays attention, both serve as mirrors of their reflection. After looking at themselves in the mirror, bliss starts flowing without errors. Joy becomes enjoyer and enjoys own joy, but without Shakti, Shiv accepts not I. Beloved's loving touch is lover's joy as such. Better half of each, thus mingled together, becomes full meal that both eat and share. In and with wind, speed is there. Gold and color inclusively go together. So also total universal Shakti always remains Shiva's beauty. With Kasturi there's fragrance, heat where fire's appearance. Universal Chitti Shakti similarly is always with Shiv only. Many nights and days become meaningless if they stay with sun, timeless. So also Shiv and Shakti together allow not two-ness any scope to appear. Or rather, all divisions in creation are really initially Om's formation. Similarly, Shiv-Shakti fusion proves hostile to all differences and division. But enough of all these forms and names full discussion, for everything would be swallowed by one meaning common. And hence, bowing to Shiv-Shakti's pair, Dhyandev says would be only fair. While defining their forms fine, went far beyond the power of speech mine. Like Ganges getting lost forever, with the ocean under dissolution times water. In the embrace of the two when both get dissolved then, like all the nights disappear in the sight that helps them appear. In the sky only extremely active wind as finally calms down, so we find. Or in the all-pervading dissolution light, the sun gets absorbed with daylight. So while gazing and staring at them, the seer and the seen remain no item. All homes and couples get dissolved where to that one pair is their prayer. In the flow of their love stream, the knower never goes to the extreme and drinks the nectar, becoming enjoyer. Instead, his is but complete surrender. Here, in order to salute, I entertain. Different consideration is your impression, but I have merged myself into their oneness. Now there is left no otherness. As ornaments are not different from gold, so they have to worship the goldness that they hold. Similarly is my salutation to Shiv Shakti without differentiation. If one's power of speech talks to himself, is there separate personality or speaker and speech itself? Is not thought and thinker one and the same? Then how can difference even touch them? Ocean and Ganges, when meet, with different names though we treat, still will their water leave oneness? Still will their water leave oneness and separately create duality and two-ness? Just see light and bright shine, the two things who calls mine. That sun though seems to have duality, does he for that break his individuality? On and from the surface of the moon, moonlight spreads itself far and wide soon. Or the light from a lamp spreads all over. Does the lamp for that feel scarcity ever? Pearl and its shine cannot both leave the pearl fine. But for that reason, the third thing, pure, does it get formed to be so sure? Just because there are A, U, M letters three, does the word Om get divided and not free? Or a letter N has three lines though, still it is undivided although. Thus, original capital of oneness decreases not. In fact, it gives them beautiful joy a lot. On lake water, lotuses of ripples blossom. Do they ever break the water bosom? Therefore, Bhutesh and Bhavani have saluted without distinguishing any. Thus, I have ventured this naman, regarding it as the same Shiv-Shakti fusion, keeping aside the mirror after entering the original. Reflecting is no more, or ripples sink in water. When the wind calms down in air, as the moment sleeps is over, one comes to know oneself sooner. So after leaving the intellect aside, I have saluted God and Goddess beside. Detaching the attachment of his saltishness, the salt took advantage of seaness. Similarly, giving up my egoism, I have attained Shambhu Shambhavism. To Shiv Shakti fusion, I have offered this naman, and in them found myself getting dissolved, like internal space of peeled banana tree in the sky is absorbed. Chapter 2. Salutations to Satguru. Now to the Master of Penencia for evils all, who is automatic help to ignorant fall, being unseen yet seen and available, as he is the form of sympathy to miserable, breaking the temple of elephantine illusion and collecting the pearls of liberation. My Sadguru fed me straight, to that nivritti I prostrate. Because of ignorance, the suffering ones, when called for his help, he immediately comes. His kind of glance, even indirect, cutting all bondage direct, and liberating helps one to meet the knower and the known on one seat. While gifting gold of liberation, he makes no small a great distinction. For his is one divine mission, to help all for self-realisation. He, with his great power, even conquers Gurutva of Shankar, for self to see the happiness of the self. He becomes mirror himself. Understanding rays of knowledge, moon, are scattered in different objects soon, but Guru's grace, gathering and untying them together, makes the moon lustrous gather. Once Guru is met when, and all the efforts then, our Ganges of extrovert action get settled in Guru grace ocean. Until Guru is not found, seer sees the scene around, but Guru's gracious presence in oneness ends manyness. The dark night of ignorance with self-knowledge turns into the day of brilliance, like the touch of the sun that helps the day to run, because of whose grace water ego gets so clean and pure, that finding even shivness impure avoids its contact being so sure. While protecting his disciple interests, Guru utilizes his Guru state best. Even then, it diminishes not. On the contrary, it increases a lot. Aloneness not finding happy state, Guru therefore, on disciple's pretext, perceives in him his own self and thereby pleases himself. The moment the spray of Guru grace is sprayed around, the scenes of ignorant illusions leave the ground, and in return the scenes changed are found in joy, elixir exchanged. As soon as knowables are embraced, the knower and the seer get absorbed, but in Guru's case, his glance gets not contaminated by any chance. Guru's help shows the effect that ego becomes without defect. Otherwise, if Guru is indifferent, Brahma state even proves worthlessly different. Those doing sadhana with efforts great, in some form its fruits they get, but blessings are showered abundantly who obey Guru's command exclusively. Until Guru glance Vasanta graces not the forest of Vedanta. Till then, fruits, it tells so much, are not at all obtained as such. Guru glance is so powerful that it can kill or ail, also heal. Still, the conqueror remains detached forever and gets not affected anyway. Investing the capital of smallness, Guru obtains the highest greatness. He gets credit of destroying what is not, but in fact, his mere presence does all that. Sinking in the water that exists not, when individuals turn to hold fast. But his divine type is such that the saved one gets dissolved by the very touch. Even vast sky is with attributes and form, but has no power to make anything uniform. Yet there is sky solid and greater, called Guru, that supports all together. The moon has become cool so much because of whose embrace as such. The sun also is so bright because of Guru's divine light. The troubled and uneasy Shiv ego, when keen on original self-state to attain, consults the astrologer for auspicious moment, and that is Guru, who tell him the future event. The moon with her own moonlight seems to put on duality dress bright. Yet, can that cover her ever? The moon, despite moonlight, is always bare. Guru manifests yet is not known, is full of light but is not shown. Guru exists but is not noticed, although everywhere, yet cannot be perceived. Now thus, who is he with such words? How many ways to explain him to words? Guru is indeed so funny that he responds not to proofs any. Where powers of word end, I am shattering to pretend, being oneness personified. Concerning duality, Guru gets annoyed. Showing proofs gets exhausted when proofs start working and expressing then. And the wonder is that our effortlessness, Guru appreciates that amounts to nothingness. At any time, by hook or nook, if one thinks to have any look, Guru feels the whole thing disgusting, and one is thrown away from him the first thing. When things are such there, how far Naman or words can go where? By concealing himself under form and name, Guru but deceives us all the same. Where there is no extrovertedness, the question of withdrawal becomes meaningless. Still, Guru leaves not the name Nivritti, though he is above every pravritti. There is for him nothing to eliminate, then what can he want to estimate? Yet, how he has set firmly at the name Nivritti so intently. The sun can never see darkness though, is called destroyer of darkness although. Similarly is Guru's Nivritti attachment, though he is all detachment. Due to him, false tradition shows what is gross, light that throws. Impossible becomes possibility, that also due to his Maya's ability. With Maya's help, whatever he expresses, that again calling it illusory eliminates. He himself is not under Maya of his own, and therefore cannot become an object to be known. O Shiv, Shiva, Shiv Shakti in the form of Guru, you are so mystic, how to describe you true? Whatever I decide to say, that moment you throw it away. These names and forms many, you create, but not allowing any to last long, exercising your power. You get pleased with the game whatsoever. You first kill our ego, then lets our friendship even go. Afterwards, also you allow us not to have Swami Sevak relationship of some sort. To say that it is his peculiarity to entertain love alone in reality. That too he seems not to tolerate. It means he like only to remain moderate. With sun's touch, night vanishes. Mixed with water, salt dissolves. When one gets awake, sleep becomes at once fake. The ornaments made of camphor are not left behind to decorate fire. The same way, with his holy touch, our names and forms exist not as much. To salute him if we try, he never stands nearby. He gets himself not involved, where difference is not dissolved. As the sun by himself otherwise does not cause his own rise, so Guru by himself makes him not adorable, though we may think him so much admirable. We ourselves cannot stand before us, however much we may try to do thus. Similarly, Guru has made salutation an impossibility, as if it has become the lost property. The sky is such a mirror that no reflection is reflected there. Similarly, Guru is such great nothingness compressed that no salutation gets saluted and impressed. But maybe he not so being able, or he may be indifferently unavailable. But he lets not the saluter remain separately behind to salute him again. On one end of garment tucked externally, if gets loosened from outside only, it comes off automatically without being needed to be pulled internally. If the original form is removed, it goes away with its reflection as though moved. In the same way, he has made unnecessary the existence of worshipper and worship accessory, where no scope for forms to appear. Eyesight has nothing to do there. To realize that Guru is without form and name, that itself is our reward all the same. Wick and oil, when cooperate each other, the lamp but can easily burn longer. But is not the case with the flame of camphor, for how can its particles serve together? Camphor and its flame, the moment they meet, both get finished soon in the heat. Their burning expects no external help, they being dependent entirely on their inner self. Like that, the moment I look at him, disappear the worshipped worshipper whim. When the dreamer wakes up from the sleep, goes away what he sees when asleep. In fact, this language I am talking is but show of duality creating. Truly, the duality between myself and my friend absolute at once merges in oneness as soon as I salute. His friendship's novelty and marvelous newness are such that there is oneness but no form as such. And even then, the Guru-disciple pair flourishes in the world with all fanfare. He is all alone and no second roundabout, yet relationship through marriage takes place in him without doubt. Can there be so strange and extraordinary, ever exist like this in the world so ordinary? In his womb fine, so big and large is he like the sky shrine. Therefore he alone can bear the dark night of nothingness bare. He is the support of perfection. Like unchanging sea, his nature shows affection, and hence entertains naturally, both for opposite quite effectively. Daylight and darkness have no mutual friendliness. Darkness and light both are none to the sun, who is all alone and one. Where number one is considered, different numbers are indirectly numbered, yet other numbers are not in a position. How can oneness in all oppose their supposition? So disciple and Guru everywhere, the two words mean therefore here. Guru indicating the common essence, in two words creating but one sense. The gold and decoration on it more or less exist but in one goldness. The moon and the moonlight rays, similarly in the moon only stays. The two things, camphor and fragrance, are not separate, though are indifference. Good, that is jaggery, and its sweetness, the two as good are in oneness. Similarly, on Guru, disciple pretext, that is, Sadguru becomes common text. He appears in two-ness though, actually exists simply although. In the mirror and in the reflected facial delusion, I am appearing to say is illusion. For both exist because of me here. Despite mirror and reflection, I am very much there. In the uninhabited forest, who is asleep lone, that he is undoubtedly all alone. But he wakes up when the waker and the awaker are he again. Who wakes up and who is awaker are not two. Similarly, the advisor and the advised are one too. Sadguru only functions all alone, through both Guru and disciple being one. Not taking the help of a mirror, if I enjoys to see its form without error, that person only can tell better the play of Sadguru played without fetter. In this way, you see duality and individuality at the same time without breaking unity. Nurturing and nourishing friendly affection, Sadguru's play reflects love's reflection. Whose name is Nivritti, detachment is whose beauty. The kingdom of this Lord Nivritti, full of detachment, is very pretty. Opposite of pravritti is nivritti, to say so, or to utter, understood the world also. Is not the nivritti I mean here, for this nivritti is different from both referred there. The sun first shows us night and then, removing it gives daylight. But this nivritti is not like the sun. Warding of pravritti creates nivritti, natural run. Diamonds become decorative with the help of socket of gem operative. The gem nivritti is not dependent amount, but is pure and absolute, Lord paramount. After containing the sky, in its stomach the moon becomes plumpy and fat very soon. The moonlight and the moonshine extend also, being its body fine. The cause for his own existence, similarly he himself has become entirely, as in order to smell its own fragrance. However, the flower should get nose to itself ever. If our sight can turn backward and become able to see our face forward, then will it be ever in need of the search of mirrors indeed? Or over is the night and has taunt the day with light? Does that mean the sun's brightness has brought different sunniness? And to understand the understood, therefore, proofs are necessary to collect before. This is not the case though, with his Swami although. And thus, nivrittiness, the causeless cause, is self-existent because I have therefore saluted only in this way his feet essentially. Now Dhyandev says, the Guru Vandan in these ways has made me free from the obligatory reach of the four types of power and speech. Chapter 3. Clearing away fully the debt of the power of speech. The four types of speech destroy the sleep of the self in the general outcry, but that awakens also is a sleep of sort. Hence, the debt of speech it fully clears not. The power of speech of the four types and kinds, though it usefully for liberation one finds. Actually, with the removal of ignorance, they also do lose their importance. With cross-body hands and feet go, the senses accompany mind so. The sun sets when, his rays also merge in him then. Or during sleep's duration, dreams die first in its last portion. Similarly, being related to ignorance, the four lose beforehand their importance. Grossness of iron in fire leaves not, but is alive in the form of fluid of some sort. The woods as fuel remain in fire by name. Even then they blaze as fire all the same. The grossness of salt in water gets dissolved, but lasts all right as saltiness being absorbed. In the wakefulness sleep dies, but as a memory it lives. With the removal of ignorance in the same way, the four types have to go away. In the name of philosophy, even then, they arise every now and then. This lamp of philosophy is lighted then. These four sacrifice their lives when. But to live with perception is a coating of exhaustion. On sleep's arrival, dream is dreamt. After its departure, wakefulness is felt. But while awake, also the sleep lives happily in the eyes deep. So as long as ignorance is alive, it searches but wrong device life. But when it is eradicated, it reappears with understanding corrected. But whether ignorance is dead or living, it is a net entangling. Into the bondage and liberation, it puts binding without consideration. If liberation considered as bondage, then why at all the word's usage? At the place of ignorance only, bondage and liberation get prestige fully. The news of the death of gobbling when heightened, who gets pleased by children frightened. For others, goblin has no existence. Why should they then persist such persistence? What broken is non-existent mud pot. Therefore, we bear loss a lot. If some start complaining otherwise, can they be called as wise? Like this, the thing bondage unreal. How can it then create liberation real? Actually, when ignorance dies, its death as liberation decries. And knowledge is bondage, so talks. The aphorism in Shiv Sutras, Sadashiv himself on the pretext uses these words to tell the text. The all-knowing Lord of Vaikuntha similarly oft tells the same thing only, that Sattva binds with knowledge bonds fully, in so many ways, very clearly. But whether he is Shri Vallabh or Shiv telling, and therefore I feel the same attracting, is not the case, for despite that, knowledge is bondage, already a fact. The self-knowledge is so pure, if needs the help of knowledge impure, would be like saying the sun to rise needs daylight, but the self-knowledge is otherwise. The greatness of self-knowledge, if is dependent, then its knowing capacity would not be independent. If lighted lamp needs another to see its illumination, it would mean its luminous body, not in continuation. We are actually by ourselves, but not knowing this, if one dishevels in search of himself from place to place, But is this ever possible in anyone's case? Still, suppose this does happen, and after many days he remembers himself even. Then he starts worrying and says, "How shall I celebrate the great success?" Similarly, all-knowing self should know by knowledge himself and should stay, "I am that." This is the bondage of knowledge, I mean that. Knowledge undoubtedly causes liberation after itself being dissolved in its dissolution. But this thing no one likes. To end knowledge by knowledge everyone dislikes. In short, the 4 types of speech fully are the decoration of ignorance only. When ignorance ends in nothingness, the ego also goes into will. These 4, the fuel to ignorance, entering in the fire of knowledge they deserve, in the form of ash still remaining, taking the form of understanding, smearing the body with ash, though afterwards its particles clash. Yet the body's lustre surely is seen whitish nearly. In the water, still different from the water, is not seen the dissolved camphor, and yet in the form of fragrance it does remain as its subtle transference. Or a streamlet without water has no waterness there. Still, looking at the moisture, it certainly proves its lustre. Or during the time of afternoon, our shadow appear not separate soon, but it is very much there, though hidden our feet under. Similarly, eliminating all another in the form of self whatsoever remains itself by itself, the understanding of the self. This debt of speech so easily cannot be paid fully, but I could clear it wholly by saluting Guru feet holy. The 4 types of speech, therefore, being their debt unpaid before, remain after ignorance removal, in the form of knowledge-ignorance dual. Chapter 4. Knowledge, Ignorance, Difference Retold. Now ignorance, becoming lifeless, enters knowledge, that is oneness. As sleep finishing its business, lives happily with wakefulness. Seeing his reflection in the mirror, his identity is known to the seer. He enjoys his looks even after, though not using mirror thereafter. Worldly knowledge, like that ways, unites with the self and behaves. To say this would mean again, knife stabbing itself does remain. One locking oneself in a hut loses life when it is burnt, or as a thief in the lathern bucket is easily caught with stolen packet. As in order to burn the rats, wand, the torch fire itself gets burnt around. So while attempting to destroy ignorance, knowledge itself loses its importance. Not having the support of ignorance, even then, knowledge is abundance. Spreads so much in vast that thereby gets destroyed very fast. It is going to extinguish when the flame of lamp flares up more brightly then. This but brings ruin only to both flame and lamp suddenly. Who can know the growth and development of rise and fall of youthful breast moment, or the beginning and end as well of blossoming and glooming jasmine tell, taking forms of ripples as such, itself means their end as much. Or is the flash of lightning the dash towards its setting. Likewise, by drinking ignorance fully, knowledge grows increasingly, but thereby dies instantly and fades away constantly. The tidal flow at the time of the world dissolution gives no chance to both land and water solution to last, but remains not without, sinking them within its flood about, or even the universe total, with the growth of solar system whole, at the world end gets eliminated too, in the Mahatej, with these light and darkness too, destroying sleep so, and disappearing itself also, there just remains awakeness, swallowing both sleep and wakefulness. Similarly, subsiding ignorance, knowledge obtains importance, swallowing ignorance and knowledge. What remains but only pure knowledge? It is full moon neither, nor the day of the new moon either, but these two get absorbed but in her 17th part overcut. No other light can surpass it, nor for covering any darkness is fit. Such is really only one, all alone, uncomparable sun, not entitled by knowledge therefore, nor covered by ignorance before. Such is that knowingness, pure and uncontaminated awareness. But this knowledge so pure can be known to be sure, to oneself by itself, obtained at all, like eyeball seeing eyeball. But can the sky enter into sky? Can the fire burn itself, that's why? Or can anyone on his head climb? If so, then only one can knowledge imbibe. Can eyesight itself see? Can the taste itself tasty? Can resounding be heard by sound? Then alone knowledge can verily be found. On himself can the sun throw light? Can fruit bear fruit by right? Can the fragrance own fragrance smell? Only then pure knowledge is known well. Likewise, ourselves on our own cannot come to be ever known. Hence, without knowingness, pure knowledge is all awareness. And if knowledge is whatever, necessarily knowingness follows there. Then can it be ever said so, that knowingness means ignorancelessness also? What is called brightness is definitely not darkness, but to call light with light, darkness must be somewhere bright. Similarly, to be or not to be is not the case where to be. Then referring knowledge in this vein would mean talking in vain. If it is absolute nothingness, is the arrangement of knowingness. Yet to be aware of this knowledge, who is there who can acknowledge? Understanding the theory of all void and empty must have the supporting authority. Otherwise, that would mean unduly charging the self clean. When lamps are extinguished, if the extinguisher also is vanished, then who would know whether lights are there or no? When sleep overtakes one, if the sleeper becomes a dead person, then who would afterwards tell whether sleep was sound and well? Existence of earthen pot is known, its non-existence when is broken. But if no such thing is there at all, who will then deny it all? Hence, nothingness might be there, Still the seer disappears, not anywhere. Yet his beingness definitely exists, whether such awareness at all persists. The self-knowledge is such subject that it cannot become any object, and there lies its peculiarity to be beyond being non-being, its speciality. One being asleep in forest is not seen by anyone surest. Besides, he himself not, also remembers himself not. Yet, it's not that he is not alive, so purity of self-imperative. Hence, he bears not even the talk of his doubt given. Eyesight, when turns back, stops seeing taken aback, yet is aware totally that its power is intact fully. Dark man in the pitch of darkness, unseen by other and by himself in fairness, still he is aware fully of his being and existence really. Similarly, existence of the self unproved cannot be known and proved. It exists without beingness at its own place as pure existenceness. In its pureness only, the sky is dissolved fully, but in it onlooker projects empty space with different objects. In its pureness only, the sky set is dissolved fully and exists without any elemental object, not even becoming its own object. Water in fountain being clean, its parts can clearly be seen. Even if water is taken away, body and bottom have still their way. By digging the earth's shell, pure water springs out in the well. But even before digging, water is there existing. Likewise, our beingness exists with pure existence persist. To be or not to be, language has no meaning to know and gauge. Sleep ends with sleepishness, giving place to wakefulness. That too, when is over, what remains is existence all over. Keeping an earthen pot on floor, the place becomes with pot store. If it is removed from there, as to say it is potless ever. In fact, both potful and potless do not even affect the place. Likewise, beingness and non-beingness make no difference with pure existenceness. Chapter 5. Truth, Light, Bliss Explained. Truth, power, light and happiness together, subtracting themselves from one another, live in oneness without opposition, as poison not poisonous to itself in any position. Luster, firmness and gold color is one gold combined three together. Fluidity, sweetness and milk pudding similarly is as one milk dish only. White color, perfume and tenderness, subsiding three into oneness. What remains is all one. That is only camphor alone. This camphor is by itself white, and this whiteness by nature tenderly bright. Subtracting these two fully, what remains is one perfume totally. Thus, in one thing camphor, these three live as one together. Similarly, subsiding their individuality, truth, light, happiness become totality. Otherwise, truth, light, bliss are used as different in practice, but these three finally remain subsiding as one bliss again. Truth's power is divine light. This light means zealous delight. To separate one from another is like separating sweetness from nectar. 16 parts of the full moon grow one by one every noon. But moon is always full in herself with all parts intact cool. Water falling drop by drop can be counted stop by stop. But when the drops assemble, what else is there but water assemble? By eliminating false similarity, Vedas say truth remains totally. Likewise, gross getting finished, what is full of life flourished. Due to total ruin of sorrow, the remnant is happiness marrow. So is told by Vedas in length, that are God's breath. Thus power, light, happiness, composites, discarding their opposites. False, gross and grief, nourish and protect themselves in brief. Truth, light, bliss this way, the form of the self far away, get established due to false elimination, and are not words of indication. When the sun throws light, whatever gross shines bright. Can that gross matter illumine the sun for that matter? That way, due to which light, speech understands words right. Is it even possible for the speech near enlightenment to reach? It is never an object. It is no theorem or project. What proof would prove it then? What is self-shining, self-illumine? After determining theorem fully, evidence is proved wholly. But with the self-evident self, can any proof prove itself? Thus, in order to know the self, knowingness itself really becomes self. Then knowing and knower would ever be left anywhere. Hence, truth, light, happiness, indication cannot predictate any prediction. For when thinking processes end, thoughts and thinker also stop to tend. In this way, becoming well known, truth, light, bliss are in practice known. But when coming into contact with the seer while they act, that time as clouds shower, flow into sea and get over, or as path showing direction, keep quiet, giving attention. Flower bearing fruit fades away. Fruit is fruitful when juice has its way. Juice also ends when utilized, and hunger is thereby satisfied. After offering oblation into fire, hands come back and retire. Song creating happy sound notes, stops and silence denotes. Reflecting and showing various faces, mirror goes away without traces. Or after having awakened one who is asleep, awaker goes away and slips. That way, Sat Chit Anand, excellent, show the seer what is a fusion, and get dispersed quietly, dissolving themselves in silence silently. Whatever we say is not that. If it is, we cannot talk of that. As by measuring our shadow, our measurement that cannot show. Then, when he looks at his own body and finds shadow measurement measures nobody, he feels ashamed of his own foolishness, so much that he shrinks into shamefulness. Exactly is the case with power of truth, that is natural while false is untruth. Power of truth is not a term relative. It matters not whether futile, or authoritative. Due to destruction of grossness, what exists as subtleness, that light has no lightness, for it is naturally all brightness. There is no sleep in awakening, nor is it fully waking. The state of light is also like that, in which there is no otherness except that. Similarly, in happiness, there is no sorrowness, as is to say happiness, as happisium is meaningless. And hence, truth, untruth with, knowledge, ignorance, happiness, sorrow along with, these terms become meaningless, and what remains is nothingness. Now, throwing away duality cover and eliminating bondage of two-ness over, what remains is bliss one, that is the form of beingness left alone. Now, to attempt to measure bliss as one, the measurer becomes second one, meaning oneness of bliss disappears. Therefore, bliss without second always appears. Similarly, after coming out of happiness, one can say he enjoyed its otherness. But what is in all happiness? There is no experiencer to experience oneness. There must be two to produce sound, a kettle drum and beater around. But in the absence of either, who will play, and what and how can display? Like this, by his own happiness, he has no need to have happiness, and any want to happiness also is not felt there so. While not looking into mirror, face faces or not faces it either. So also, without mundane happiness, divine bliss is pure happiness. That which is enlightened by wise word is actually like dream forward, and not subject to any proposition. To know him, even hands are not in disposition. Before cultivating sugarcane, juice somewhere does remain, and its sweetness there, it alone knows from where. Before playing on strings of lute, the sound is in silence mute. Still, the sound itself has to become the knower of the sound from where to come. In the flower bosom, before pollen blossom, it itself has to become bee to enjoy its own honey. Before it is being cooked fully, the eatable does contain sweetness wholly, but others to have the taste are unfit, or the thing under preparation alone can know it. Likewise, that which is happiness pure feels shy to become happy with it and be impure. Then, as it is so naturally, how can anything except that know it fully? During noontime in the sky, moon is seen but is very shy. As she becomes brightless due to very hot sun, how can ever the heat know full moon's cool fun? Without figure no beauty, no youth if body not pretty. How can there be any merit without good actions to one's credit? Unless mind sprouts passion, how can Cupid create sexual attraction? Unless he gets excited in mind, his presence is rather very difficult to find. So long as the world of musical instruments in front of our eyes not manifest, till then the sound in them silently has to know itself quietly. With the touch of woods, fire becomes impure, but when the fuel gets over, the same remains in the form pure, as fire alone without being impure. One who wants to look at his own face affectionately, if can do so without looking into mirror externally, he alone can know the subtlety of the meaning of these words without any difficulty. Without sowing seeds, if crop can be reaped, that grain then is already in store heaped. Those who can understand this open talk can alone know these words and take their mystic stock. Thus, whatever particular and common to both consciousness cannot be known, but those who are exclusively without anotherness can alone enjoy self's happiness. Now, the further talk on this subject would be the wise words of object, if and when are talked in silence, and afterwards also if drunk silent reminiscence. Thus, tangible testimony being unreliable, and examples on oath being not viable, such self in the form of exclusive happiness is beyond proofs and illustratingness. Here, their forms are without being created, and theories of their birth and origin not originated. Even if their characteristics are shown in line, they prove themselves meaningless in no time. All ways and means spiritual prove to be of no use as usual, and whatever practical experience of common sense taken for granted makes but no sense. Here, whatever thought is thought and decided goes away before is precisely presided, just like a soldier on battlefield dies for his master's prestige yield, obtaining its own ruin by various destructions. Knowledge feels ashamed of all instructions. Without any experience and knowingness, becomes narrowed down to mere beingness. Mica's various layers over it, when taken away from its outfit, its grossness getting destroyed, it exists not as mica fortified. As if feeling very hot, the core of plantain tree, if starts throwing away covers of its layers free, but then will it be able to stand? Therefore, it better in time should this understand. Like that, experienced and experiencer in order to meet must be there. That experience, if is absent, what is the use of the two being present? If experience exists not, and accepts to be absent for that, then any amount of letters and mere words would be in fetters. If the subtlest power of speech works not, what sound can arise out of that? How can lips also have any service of producing any sound through their device? There is no need of talk of awakening when one is already waking. Who will go near the oven to cook if one is already full and have a satisfied look? After the sun rises, to lighted lamp sleep arises. Who will go to till the field ready that is full of crop already? Hence, where no bondage, no liberation, there is no need of words function. Now if anybody still thinks of course, then there is still need of further discourse. Then it is like this that when a thing is lost, with the help of words only, we remember its whereabouts fully. So as a memorizing factor, word is a good actor. Beyond that, it is good for nothing, though as a reminder, it shows off everything. Chapter 6. Confuting and disproving prowess of word. How much useful is word found? For its memorizing skill famous all around. It is not like a mirror that shows invisible clear. Onlooker into mirror can look naturally, and there's nothing wondrous eventually. But word mirror is such a thing that the non-seer is seen reflecting. As from the family of unmanifested, the father of manifested, the sun comes and throws light over the world created. So also the word attribute gives the formless and all-pervading sky principal form and sense. Word is sky flower unreality, yet is able to indicate world fruit reality. Is there anything unmeasurable that to measure word is not able? To show right and wrong, word is the torch bearer very strong. To compromise bondage and liberation, word again does meditation. When the word takes sight of ignorance, even false things gain prestige and reverence. What is true and real, on the other hand, is not valued as 3 cowries beforehand. Shiv, the self, is free and pure, but word fills it with egoism impure. Then, as exorciser calls evil spirit, word with the help of matter influences spirit. Identifying with body ego gets bound. Then the words you are free sound. Ego starts thinking. He has realized the self after hearing. The sun helps day to dawn, but has to be hostile to darkness anon. Therefore, word cannot be compared with the sun so imperfectly prepared. Extrovertedness and introvertedness together are contradictory to each other. Still, word alone uses both of them sufficiently, at the same time, quite efficiently. In order to help the knowledge of self, word sacrifices its existence itself. How much shall I describe the qualities of word that subscribe? In short, word is famous widely for giving memory largely, but there is no connection here between it and the self whatsoever. The word self denotes not the self, hence it is of no use for oneself. The self by himself is known necessarily, so why will he be under any obligation unnecessarily? Memory as well as forgetfulness both need subject for their beingness, but the self is ever present in oneness, so it needs nothing else in otherness. One remembers oneself and forgets also. Is it possible to happen ever so? Does tongue taste itself or not taste? Can this ever happen in any context? No sleep in wakefulness make. How to say then it is awake? Memory and forgetfulness, both equally, are absent in the self totally. The sun knows not night, then how can he know the day right? Similarly, the self is without memory and forgetfulness and their whereabout. Thus, in the self, there is no remembering nor forgetting. Therefore, word, the reminder, is not relating to the self, hence the prowess of word yields no power whatsoever to word. By word, one more thing is done also, though this has been said so. But even to mention after that, no courage is found with the thought in fact. Word can destroy ignorance fully, and then the self is seen by the self totally. But to say this is all nonsense, amounting to be madness, only without any gains. The sun first kills the night, and then brings about its rise bright. But this is meaningless, as the sun is without night. Same is the case with the self totally bright. If an awakened one wants to scold the sleep, but will he ever find it and keep? Or to wake up already awakened one? Such wakefulness is there none. if asleep one wants to scold the sleep. Therefore, in order to destroy ignorance, an iota of it even is not in existence. Similarly, to reach the self, destroy ignorance first, to say this is foolishness just. Ignorance is like a child of a woman who cannot conceive and is barren. Then, to use arguments logical to kill the child is also illogical. If rainbow in the sky were real and dry, how can any warrior then from using it would himself refrain? Just to satisfy Agasti's thirst whimsical, if mirage water would be substantial, then one can safely say so, that to destroy ignorance, logic would suffice also. If argument, reasoning, and inference can bring about destruction of ignorance, then we can infer that false Gandharva cities also can be set on fire and burn entities. Even a ray of lamplight indirect is not tolerated by darkness direct, but in fact what is there with darkness to get destroyed here in order to see daylight, to arrange for lamplight, as would be foolish and in vain, so is the usage of words to destroy ignorance reign. Where there is no shadow seen, there is existence, not is a fact clean. And although there is shadow fallen, there also no new thing begotten. The dreamt dream untrue is known when one awakens true. Similarly, whatever ignorance shows is false like it when one throws. Ornaments produced by magician though, if are taken to a pauper's home although, or if a naked man is robbed from, what harm can be accrued therefrom? If imaginary sweets mentally are eaten lakhs of times intellectually, yet fasting alone will be the gain, and what else can be expected to obtain? No mirage is seen where the soil is well dry there, but will the soil be moisturous where mirage is boisterous? If whatever appears is actually so, then scene of rains in picture also would have made persons dripping wet under the roof while they wait. Farms and lakes would have felt adequate, mixing darkness with water, if it were possible to write matter. Then who would have undergone exhaustion for just black ink preparation? Do not eyes see in true that the sky appears blue, but is it actually so? Likewise is ignorance make belief also. Avidya, ignorance, is by name, indicates its absence to the same, and as if tells naturally, I am not present actually. And secondly, it is indescribable. It also second heaven courtyard imaginable. It's this indescribability proves but its non-existence ability. If ignorance is something, then why can't it bear definite marketing? Unless there is earthen pot in place, can it be said it is not potless space? The self is firstly destroyer of ignorance, and then the self shines at once, but is not the case as the sun does not have darkness to shun. This ignorance is illusory and deceptive, but hides its nature elusive. It is really is not in existence, but pretends as if it has existence. Thus, from every point of view, ignorance exists, not is the review. Then how can word to destroy raise its hands to strike and try? If we strike shadow with iron bar, the ground alone will be hit very far. or to strike emptiness of the sky, our raised hand will fall short, that is why. Or in order to drink mirage water, or to embrace the sky for that matter, or to kiss the reflection that is reflected, presentation. Even if we try our level best, all our efforts go waste. Similarly, to destroy ignorance, our logical interferences, of course, are of no consequences. In this way, whoever comes forward to destroy ignorance with word, his efforts would be meaningless, like to peel the skin of the sky is useless. To milk the billy goat's tit, or to find the way with knee-eyes neat, to cut into pieces evening time, and to dry them in time, or to grind yarn into fluid, and extract the air from liquid lucid, then mix it with idleness, and make headless trunk drink it in fullness, or to make canal water flow backwards, or to raise fallen shadow upward, to thread wind to cope, and entwine into a rope, to kill goblin that frightens children only, to collect into bag reflected reflection wholly, or to comb the hair on palm of hand, all this is futile beforehand, or to indulge in breaking a lot, the non-existence of a pot, or to pluck flowers of sky albeit, or to break horns of rabbit, to turn camphor and collect soot, or to expect lamp black, for luster of jewel lamp hood, or to flirt happily with the daughter, nevertheless, of a barren woman who is childless. With the moonlight on the new moon day well, to nurture and nourish the chakor birds of hell, or out of mirage water readily, try to catch fish easily. How much of illustrate this way, to prove absently formed ignorance out of way. All these efforts are meaningless. To use words also would be useless. To destroy what is non-existent, words cannot become proof existent. As in the darkness, having no form is formless. Ignorance has no lineage as such. Hence, words have no influence much. As in afternoon, no lamp with oil and wick, to show noonday, light cannot play any trick. When seeds are not sown, and yet farmer family goes to collect crop unsown, they will have to return empty-handed, feeling ashamed having caught red-handed. On the support of sky words live. Therefore, if anybody goes around to catch them alive, he will have to return home disappointed. But if he sits quietly, he gets words self-appointed. What else happens when it rains over sea? Water gets mixed with water, you see. Likewise, when words attack ignorance vehemently, this but adds and spreads elusive ignorance mentally. Measurement can boast so far, it has not to measure sky that far. Similarly, lamp is worth throwing light, so as long it has not to show darkness of night. I am relishing sky delicacy. If tongues start posting this legacy, then its lasting capacity fame would be meaningless like surname. A widow without husband rock, decorating herself becomes laughing stock, with intention to eat plantain core internal, it would be useless to peel layers external. And there any gross and subtle things that the sun into light not brings, but sun is useless to throw light over darkness to show night. Eyesight can sight everything in sight, but it cannot detect the sleep right. For when one is already awake, it is not possible to hold the sleep in one's wake. If a chakor bird does efforts best, they will be of no avail to taste the moonlight rays of daytime, as it would be futile and foolish pastime. If blank paper in front is kept, even expert reader keeping mum will be left, or any attempt to walk in spacious sky would make feet lame however much they try. Where there is ignorance of the self, similarly, any amount of words to destroy it completely become of no use for its destruction. Rather, they prove to be meaningless, chattering instruction. Moon on a new moon day, moon's light is not able to remove darkness of night. Likewise, in order to destroy ignorance, thoughts and words are of little importance. Eating any amount of false food in doll's play is fasting only, you would say. Like this, blind eyes, though kept open widely, having lost sight, are unable to see even mildly. Ignorance, non-existence in every way, when becomes object of word and its play. That time, words used for its destruction prove to be lame excuse and useless instruction. Now, there exists no ignorance in fact, but what say or even that? For when words would try their best, they only would lose in the test. Therefore, in front of ignorance then, thoughts in form of words rise when all that process and procedure become its extension and expansion sure. Thus, death and destruction by word of ignorance would take place. This inference gets not proved because of the non-existent ignorance thereof. Word will show oneself the self this reference, and thereby will enhance its importance. All this talk is contradictory and not at all a true story. Does one's marriage to oneself any time take place anywhere in prime? Or is it ever possible for the sun to cause his eclipse by himself and be its cause? The sky has started going towards itself happily, or ocean is entering into itself only, or palm of hand is on itself climbing. Are such things ever seen in themselves imbibing? The sun throws light on himself, or fruit makes ripen itself. Fragrance smells its own smell. Do these things ever happen and do well? Perhaps it will be possible matter to make animate, inanimate drink water. But to compel water drink water, can it ever be possible matter? During 360 days, is there any day when it says, the sun himself just does see, with his own eyes, you see? In case the god of dissolution, fire, gets angry, he will burn all the three worlds and not be sorry, but will fire kindle itself and burn? Can this ever happen in its turn? He himself, by himself, on his own given, Brahma without the help of mirror taken, cannot bring in front of him ever and see his own face there. Or can eyesight see its own sight? Or can taste enjoy its own flavor right? Or can the awake one be awakened? No, these possibilities are never for granted taken. Does sandalwood apply itself its own paste? Or does color makes itself colorful in haste? Does pearlness decorate itself with pearl? Can such things ever be real? Coldness test cold. Lampness kindles lamps so told. Juice deep in juice dives. This happens, not even if it thrives. On his own crown Mahadev, the all-powerful, can hold moon so wonderful. But moon on her own head cannot climb and walk ahead. Similarly, the king of self-glorified, mere and pure knowledge personified. When is the case? How can knowledge embrace knowledge and also acknowledge? He who is knowingness fully need not know himself actually. Eye cannot see itself ever. Eye to eye it sees never. If ever mirror on its own can see itself and known, then knowingness in the self can know itself by itself. Beyond extremity of directions directly, dagger might reach and pierce an object correctly, but will it be ever able to stab itself and become disabled? Tasting all kinds of flavor fast, tongue shows off its wisdom at last, but will it itself taste and tell its taste at best? Though it is so, tongue at its best does not lose its capacity to taste, for flavorness is full all over in tongue that it never gets over. Similarly, the self who is truth, light and bliss ever, is in himself siddha and imperfect never, and hence what can word offer him and bring forward? Therefore, no proof can help so to prove the self or disprove it also. For in the case of perfection or label, taking or not taking is possibly not practicable. Hence, word earns bliss for the self and thereby obtains beauty and importance for itself, is not the case with the self, for such tendency never can rise in himself. Similarly, lamplight at noontime cannot destroy darkness nor shows daytime. So also, word removes ignorance neither, nor gives bliss to the self either. Now, avidya, ignorance of the self, is non-existenceness. Then what can destroy its existencelessness? Similarly, while the self is perfect in himself, then what else like word is needed to prepare that self? Both ways thus, word is useless organization and causes not avidya destruction, nor self-realization. On the contrary, word itself fades away, as all water streams get lost in world of dissolution water straight away. Now, at the self-word exists neither as a word, nor as meaning of the word. So word gets dissolved in nothingness completely, its uselessness thus proved permanently. Goblin has come, so to say, is nothing but empty words play. Can we call it anything but futile try to hold in palm the unlimited sky? Similarly, mere wordy utterance about self is of no importance, but is in fact like wall picture, mere decorative color wash culture. Likewise, knowledge and ignorance, whose source is words and words only whose life force, are as more true as an orchard in picture, by which only illusion is nurtured. Finally, the wordy world forever dissolved and final dissolution over, as gloomy, cloudy, dusky day vanished with clouds turning into bright sunny day. Chapter 7. Disproving and refuting ignorance. Otherwise, ignorance being a relative term only, until knowledge is not referred flared up fully. Till then, has to remain concealed, not being even heard and sealed. Behind the screen of darkness it glows, glow warm from its head has to throw. So also ignorance due to its unreality gets existence in its negativity. As importance of dream is while dreaming continued, or in and with darkness, darkness is not discontinued. So also ignorance gets importance, so as long as state of illusion, Maya has any continuance. Horses made of wood and mud cannot be used for war thud, or ornaments created magically are of no use to decorate physically. Likewise, with knowingness of knowledge pure, ignorance has no influence, be sure. For will starry moonlight ever create mirage at night? And what is known by knowledge commonly is nothing but another type of ignorance only. For by concealing one and showing another, no one would know difference in either. But now, enough of this introduction. Let us begin the search of ignorance production. Then, whatever conclusions acquired would only prove relative knowledge also untrue. These ignorance and knowledgeism live at one place of egoism. If it is so, then why not ignorance completely cover the knowledge of the self forever? Wherever there is ignorance, nothing is understood is the interference. For it is its chief characteristic to create non-understanding of what is realistic. But some say, Scripture opines confidently that the self contains ignorance definitely, and that self lives in ignorance so that helps for self-realization also. If there is nothing else but ignorance present, and in it the seed and origin both represent, then in that case who will know and be aware of ignorance and its existence so? Ignorance to itself knows not because of its inertness of sort. As it is so, this becomes proof that proves the existence of ignorance not aloof. That is why it is said ignorance will give knowledge of its own existence. Then one will have to keep mum, as the whole thing will contradictory become. All alone, one knowing principle in every one of us really has been made foolish by ignorance only. If it is so, then who would remain to note down ignorance main? In fact, the self, the all-knower, cannot be made ignorant about himself even by ignorance so said. Then, ignorance, when is called ignorant, why should it not feel ashamed of itself being so prominent? Cloudy sky covers the sun all right, but then who shows it also, throwing over its light? If deep sleep gets angry and leaves asleep one, then will any sleep be left behind alone? Similarly, ignorance exists where that abode becomes full of ignorance then and there. But as ignorance, being inert itself, goes into ignorant state and knows not itself, this happens because of ignorance. This import is taken on the self-support. But this whole process is such that for ignorance there is no scope much. When eye is screened with filmy layer, and still to say it is not blind ever, is this not an empty talk and meaningless laughing stock? Already wood is burning, in the furious fire churning, still to say it is not burning though would mean denying the heat of fire as though darkness is shut up in the house fully, but is not able to fall its shadow wholly, and thereby is not darkening. To say so would mean darkness has no meaning also. Someone appears as if he is asleep deeply, but immediately answers when is called loudly. Then who would call that sleep all right? So also, night is not night, that lessens not daylight. The self is ignorance fullness, and yet loses not his knowingness. To say so would make ignorance only. False would be the inference naturally. Otherwise, in the self, ignorance resides itself. If this is said really, it will be wrong logically. Dream and wakefulness, remembering and forgetfulness, if these opposite pairs alongside can reside and walk side by side, cold and heat reside at one place and not aside, or for shutting sunlight with darkness to bind rays bright, or to say dark night and lighted day at one time and place reside by the way. If is the case, can be said safely that self-support is ignorance only. Not only this, but if life and death can become brothers-in-law by fate, then only ignorance and the self also can be said to have a relation so and so. O sirs, when the self is harmful to a thing, how can it become supporting? Why should one talk after all of such contradictory things at all? If forgetting its pet darkness gives its nature and becomes brightness, then it would be naturally like sun, who will then be without botheration. Leaving aside its woodenness, if wood coats fieriness, it would then not remain fuel, but will be called fire non-dual. If separate streams join Ganges wholly, and themselves into it pour fully, their otherness when they leave totally, their water becomes Ganges immediately. Similarly, ignorance if leaves its ignoranceness, then it will be self without knowingness. But if it does not do so, the self will have to introduce it as so and so. Dark ignorance is hostile to the self, therefore no relation can take place by itself. It is opposite and hence exists separately, cannot be proved independently. For lifeless fish of salt, even if becomes alive in fact, when is put in water, will not live also for that matter. In short, ignorance is not here, where the self is there. Therefore, it is better not to hear anything that opposes the self where. Rope, if seems to see snake move on itself and tries to bind it or remove, but will this be ever possible? Similarly, removing ignorancy by the self is impossible. Darkness towards full moonlight, being afraid of daylight, when goes for shelter, it but gets swallowed by moon brighter. Like this from both sides, ignorance becomes meaningless besides, and without reasoning futile, it exists not a while. As it is so, the form of ignorance, from its work activity and functions, or from its exact appearance, we would, examining, find its disappearance. O good ones, what we call proofs, and voice them from the top of roofs, that all is but the work of ignorance, and not the ignorance itself with reference. As sprouts sprout fully, and creeper spreads beautifully, but that is the work of seed, and not seed itself indeed. Or auspicious and non-auspicious forms are projection that dream in forms, but that is the function of sleep, and is not sleep itself deep? Or moon is one and single only, but if seen in the sky doubly, then that is due to eye disease and not disease itself actually. Similarly, knower knowledge to be known and proof all three well known are the work of ignorance itself actually. Therefore, actual proof and evidences are the work of ignorant interferences, and these functions are not actual ignorance. There is no doubt about this interference. From the function of ignorance, what we draw inference. If that is called ignorance indeed, then this saying would be ignorant indeed. Whatever seen in dream is dream, you say, but is dreamer different in any way? Likewise, work of ignorance really is ignorance only if considered falsely. Then jaggery has tasted itself, or black soot has smeared itself with itself, or pole for hanging criminals only has climbed on itself to suffer deliberately. Thus, if cause not different from effect, then only function of ignorance can be ignorance with that effect. Where everything is ignorance, so what is to be given and taken also. Now knower and the known both are ignorance alone, so no transaction can take place in one. There is no need to question and surcharge, for it would be like fish in mirage. Thus, into the measure of evidence, what cannot be caught even by providence. If this is accepted, then however, no difference between it and the sky flower ever. If evidence is not evident here, what proof would prove ignorance there? Who can say ignorance exists surely? Then the word ignorance becomes useless fully. In this way, inference actual and any evidence factual cannot measure ignorance, and therefore ignorance becomes non-evidence. That ignorance whose functionlessness is perfect, neither the cause of anything nor the producer of any effect. I am afraid to believe in such ignorance, with not at all having any true substance, unable to show the self any dream formation in the form of world expansion. Ever aware self never goes to sleep, due to influence of ignorance however deep. Nonetheless, some say at the time when the self is in his pure state sublime, there exists this couple impure. Can one rebut this and be so sure? Like fire in the wood unignited, exists as potential unmanifested. But the pure self Atma does not even bear the name Atma. Then how with ignorance the self you bind, when not any trance in search you find? Clearing the soot of lamp until is act meaningless and impossible quite? Or can we leave the shadow of unsprouted tree which is pseudo? Or smear butane on a body unborn is an impossible act, the conclusion drawn, or cleanse a mirror before it is there. Can skimming the cream be called an intelligent act when milk is still in the udder and not manifested in fact? So likewise at the self's address, not even is found selflessness. Then how can be the trace of ignorance found in this case? Hence, even at that time, when self is in his pure state sublime, non-existence of ignorance, thus automatically proving, shows uselessness of its denying. When the self is beyond existence and non-existence, still ignorance exists in your persistence. Then what will be its nature? Now I am going to explain you in verses following. Like non-existence of mud pot broken into pieces, thousands for granted taken, or that death which gives death to all, itself had been utterly slain once for all, or that sleep itself had gone to sleep, or that unconsciousness had become unconscious deep, or that darkness which darkens the darkness of night had fallen into a well without any light, or that non-existence once fallen in danger of perishing at once, or that core of a plane tree was broken, or that sky whip is whipped and world is shaken, or that poison is fed to a person already dead, or that the mouth is sealed of a dumb indeed, or that unwritten letters were erased with rubbers. Thus, ignorance is hidden form, enjoys its life, is a ridiculous norm. Though it is proved to be a falsity, supporters may say it is acti in its activity. How could a barren woman deliver a child? How seeds could sprout which are fried? Or that even sunny sun can meet with a visitor, dark darkness itself and no other. Likewise, the self-awareness so pure, search of ignorance with zeal however, will you find any trace of ignorance thus? Then all talk of ignorance is nothing but a fuss. In order to obtain the cream instantly, in anticipation, if one stirs the milk pot constantly, this act will result in dissolving it certainly. Something happens when you look at ignorance thoughtfully. One may wake up suddenly in order to catch hold of sleep quickly. Will his efforts ever meet success when due to his act instead sleep vanishes? Therefore, why should one madly search for ignorance when it does not have any existence? Such searching is equal to not searching at all, is the inference. Considered how in any way wise, existence of ignorance does not arise. In the city of understanding, it can never be caught by discriminating. If at all ignorance had any existence, eyes of understanding would have seen its substance, either hidden in the self or outside of the self. Decisiveness cannot even have its taste, evidence in the dream too, unsuccessful in its quest. Answerless and speechless, they keep mum, lose their authority and become dumb. Even after so much discussion and deliberation, ignorance may be found in this expectation. O my Lord, what all this intellectual perspiration? In no case, existence of ignorance can get affirmation. Like new moon rays illuminating a gathering in such a grand twelving, with rabbit horn pillars supporting, and its grandeur decorating. In this unique function occurred such celebration, in which children of barren women were greeted with garlands of sky flowers decorated. Ghee made from turtle milk is given in the cups of the sky to the celebrities in the function. If this can happen actually, then only your efforts will be fruitful factually. We have tried in so many ways our level best to bring it forward in our quest, but ignorance is non-existent thing, then how much its glory we should sing. Hence, this word called ignorance is not worth to be pronounced once. Even in a dream, still one can say, an argument comes forward in this way. By seeing itself or seeing an object, the self could have obtained seerness perfect. But it's not so in its essence. Hence, one has to consider its presence. By expanding the scene as large as the world, the self became seer, no doubt can come forward. to set in order this contradictory fact, considering ignorance is perfect act. Where awareness of selfness is difficult to rise, from that self himself this world does arise. And so at the world's expanded appearance, self himself becomes seer in the proper inference. Hence, though ignorance is not visible, it exists is a fact perfectly convincible, and it is proved by inference from the visible world's appearance. The moon is one and single, if it appears in the sky as double. From this we would have to infer direct that eyesight is impaired by some defect. Trees take water only from the earth and no source other, but there is no water seen on the ground, and yet trees are fresh, lively, green and sound. Therefore, from this we infer, from below their roots are absorbing water. Likewise, ignorance is inferred by the appearance of the visible world. Sleep vanishes as soon as one awakes, nor is it known to one who sleeps soundly without breaks. Still, its existence is to be inferred from the presence of dreams referred. Hence, when expanse of the scene in the form of this vast universe is seen, projected on the pure self, then it is proved evidently that ignorance exists, let us admit happily. Then, how can this kind of knowledge be called ignorance and acknowledged? Why you are calling it darkness, which spreads light and brightness? A thing which smeared on an object when make it whiter and brighter than the moon then. Can we call collyrium to it, a word just opposite and unfit? If water can acquire functioning power of fire, then only we can call ignorance a source of world appearance. If on the dark new moon day night one can bring the full moon bright, then only knowledge will be eligible to put on itself ignorance label. Though, due to full affection, can poison others release liquid nectarine. Although, if released some nectar like liquid, we will have to call it poison and nothing else indeed. When all that is unfolding before us is radiant with the knowledge of fact obvious, then why should we bring in there the flood of ignorance matter? If we call this ignorance, then what else in the knowledge substance is the self something, an easily modifying gross thing? The self does not become anything, nor he is specially aware of his own being. Evidences give an affidavit admitting him as nothingness. This shows that he is beyond their power of decisiveness. As he performs no activity, the self cannot be called an existing entity. As it is impossible to prove that he exists, then there is no reason for saying he does not exist. Independent is his existence, depending not on other existence. He is vision himself, without being seen by someone. Then how can his existence be denied by anyone? He silently endures the conviction of nihilists calling him nothing in their diction, nor is he disturbed when someone attaches particular attributes like truth, bliss, and light. Being the witness of the deepest sleep, world dissolving, how that omniscient remain without himself knowing. Still, he cannot stand in front of himself as a scene to know himself. The Vedas have said everything, but without even mentioning the self as like this or not. They say only not this, not that. Though the sun illumines the whole material world, same sun illumines the self. Have anyone ever heard? Sky pervades everything and all over. But to pervade self, its pervasiveness falls shorter. Body is nothing but a bundle of bones. I am body, mentality, ego tones. That ego cannot even touch the self in any way as such. Intellect is able to grasp every subject except the self, which never becomes its object. The mind can imagine and determine anything, but not the self, which is nothing. Mind though has the willpower, the self it cannot uncover. The senses scrape their animal mouths without distraction on the barren, marshy, stony land of worldly joy and satisfaction. The nectar of the self though they are incapable to enjoy also, along with nothingness, along with ego's I-ness and myness, who has filled his belly to its fullness. Can that self be completely comprehended by anybody who himself is not excluded? To himself even, the self is never an object. How can then he become someone else's object? Tongue can taste each and every flavor, but can it taste its own taste ever? Ignorance is afraid of standing with all its innumerable names and forms forwarding in front of the self, because names and forms are of no help, where self is not hungry of perceiving his own glory. Then how can anybody else enter and perceive him and become seer? In a string puzzle of the gambler, a stick appears to be ensnared, but when the string is pulled, the player is amazed to find the stick outside, which shows his failure. Likewise, all decisions fail. The thing is so sure. When one makes determination to overjump his own shadow and make preparation, then one thing is obviously certain, that he has gone out of his wits due to illusion. Similarly, the person who attempts to give description of the self and comes to this or that conclusion fails in comprehending his nature. All his efforts certainly ends in failure. Now what to tell more, where no activities of words are possible there? At the pure natural state of self, words are of no help. Understanding of our worldly intellect is based on words we use and relate. How then can such intellect comprehend the self as an object? Ego's blindness without I-ness is cured by self-omnipotence, and then ego obtains self's estate, that is self's most beautiful natural state. As an object of perception, he cannot stand in front of himself in seen-seer relation. Thus, his relative seerness is also in a fix. In seer-seen duality, he never gets mixed. Who will meet who in this case, where the seer and the seen never stand face to face? How can there arise vision, where oneness is merged in one and only one? Still, overcoming this great obstacle, he exhibited the greatest miracle by flinging open the doors of the light divine. In seer seen, seeing Trinity form, he alone shines. World of innumerable forms and names, and all visions arising to enjoy the same. But it is one pure consciousness, which is the substance of all manyness. When innumerable scenes started emerging, underlying consciousness intoxicated so much while watching that it does not see itself in the same mirror of object jewel, considering its tail an inferior. In the form of scenes, he has infinite garments. He causes his vision to appear in a novel, array each moment. Such is the self's generosity, and he loves very much novelty. Seen garments of bygone moments are left aside as unwashed garments, and vision wears garments new in the form of newer and newer view. Similarly, at each new moment, wearing novel perception ornaments, vision of knowledge with its seerness exhibits the beauty of knowingness. Not satisfied with his static position, God decided his own expansion. For being bored with his loneliness, he decided to multiply in manyness. Consciousness alone is manifesting in each and every conditioning. This is called omniscience. This is all knowingness, which is not something different from consciousness. Like this, knowledge and ignorance embrace in one pure consciousness. This embrace throws light on the supreme vision, which meets itself by seen formation. Seeing the visible world of manyness, consciousness enjoys it as its witness. All activities of seer seen and knowingness are filled in one all-knowing vision of consciousness. That time, all give and take activities goes on without breaking the thread of unity, as face and its mirror reflection, though seems to be two, the face is always one. A good horse stands when he is sleeping. When he awakes, is also standing. Like that, giving and taking is done without oneness breaking. Just as water runs and plays over its own surface by assuming the forms of ever new waves, the self, the ultimate reality, plays happily with itself in unity. Fire garlands itself with garlands woven of flames. Flames are nothing but blazing beads of gems. Saying so, does the fire differentiate itself from blazing flames, which are images of its own self? Families of millions of rays surround the sun all over always. Still, can we say that the huge and great sun is separate from his rays millions? Moonlight falls on the moon always. Does its pure nature disturbed? Does its pure nature disturbed by its own light in any way? A lotus blossom contains 1,000 petals though. Still, it is one lotus. No otherness appears in its show. The legendary king Saharsa Arjuna had 1,000 hands like warrior squad. Then will we count him as 1,001 when his body with its 1,000 hands is only one? There may be threads of different colors in the spindle frame of handloom weavers. Is there anything other than the fiber in different color threads and shades, however? Billions of words may gather at the residence of speech, but speech never bothers, because all the words that are uttered contains in a speech. Words are but part and parcel of which. Visible objects may emerge in infinite numbers. Visions also may arise in infinite numbers. Visibles and visions are not different from one seerness. Both of them are not different from all witnessing witness. Breaking a big lump of jaggery in wholesale dealing is done with the pieces in retail. Though in wholesale or retail, properties of jaggery never fail. Likewise, the supreme seer perceives the scenes or expands himself in innumerable scenes. He is never subjected to any duality, one without second. He is entity. In spite of innumerable forms and names, the whole universe is filled with principle same, duality language no one can ever utter, regarding the Supreme and his universe as matter. Though silk garments may be made of different colors, with even or two-toned border and various textures, but all varieties in texture and color shades. After all of them contain nothing but threads. If eyesight were able to embrace the whole world without its lids getting free from embrace, without sprouting from its seed, if a banyan tree were to reach maturity indeed, then only the expansion of the one into many would be comparable to example any. When he strongly desires to rest for a while and see himself no more, he makes his own body a resting place, means he reposes within himself in this case. When eyelids are in embrace state, entering its own belly, vision takes rest. Or the ocean is to its fullness, even before the high tide due to moon rays, or as the tortoise withdraws its limbs when they enter in its own belly then, or as on new moon day night, moon withdraws its light in its own heart and remains as 17th part. The self is not a conqueror, as he is falsely called, however. When he withdraws universe of visible objects, it is simply that he is reposing in his natural state. The self is all that exists, is a natural fact. Then who is perceiving what in perceiving act? The state of non-perceiving we call his natural state of sleeping. If he says to himself, now enough of this state of non-perception, I want to see myself in the world formation, then he becomes an object to himself by automatically giving rise to universe through himself. The self is eternally perceived seen and also eternal perceiver of the seen. Now, what else needs to be created and by whom? An already created universe. There is no room. Does the sky needs to be associated with the space? Same thing is applicable to sense of touch and air case. Can new relation be established in brightness and the sun when these two things are not different but only one? The consciousness shining as universe by becoming perceiver perceives the universe. When universe gets dissolved in consciousness, still consciousness perceives its non-existence. And if, by chance, the existence and non-existence were both dissolved at once, still he perceives well this state as well. As the camphor looks crystal bright white, this whiteness is not borrowed from the moonlight. So the self is absolute perceiver at his own place forever. In short, the self may be in any condition. He is seeing himself as he is absolute vision. Like one who discovers various countries in his imaginative discoveries and goes wandering through them all with a great enjoyment above all. It is neither miracle nor wonder that when the closed eyelids are pressed with finger, a pure brilliant light is seen vibrating there. It is creation of eye itself, however. From this we conclude it is the one pure consciousness seeing itself in all conditions by itself. Then what is the need of superimposition by saying something about its perception? Is the jewel covered with sparkle by someone, or is goldness attached to gold by anyone? Does candlewood encircle fragrance around itself, or does nectar serve itself? Or has jaggery ever tasted its own sweet flavor? Does camphor need to be smeared with whiteness, or does fire need to be heated to keep it hotness? A creeping vine, entwining about itself, forms its own power effortlessly without outside help. Likewise, the whole universe is nothing but vibrant radiance of one pure consciousness, vibrating in its oneness. Thus, without desiring to perceive oneself, the self is continuously and easily perceiving himself. This is darkness and this is light. Moon never bothers to differentiate at night. Likewise, perceiving and non-perceiving are same to Supreme Being. When he wishes to dissolve seeing trinity, it happens so, and then he remains as naturally self-perfected entity. The seer and the seen both are just interdependent temporary phases, merging in each other. In turn, they merge in nothingness. There the seer is merged in the seen, and the seen is entered in the seer. In this intermerging, one thing is quite clear, that after merging both of them, what is remnant is the reality beneath both, the consciousness permanent. At any time and anywhere, in mid-presentation junction seen and seer, while embracing each other, they both consume each other. Whether fire entered into camphor or camphor put into fire, saying anyway makes no difference either. In their meeting simultaneously, they both get consumed completely. When one is subtracted from one, what's left is zero, no need to say even. And then if that indicator circle is also erased, then only nothingness is left. The same thing happens in this case when the seer and the seen embrace and get merged in nothingness. In this case, fire consumed camphor or camphor consumed fire is same as after subtracting 1 minus 1, the leftover 0 is erased even. Then what is left is nothingness. Same thing happens in the seer-seen case. If someone attempts to wrestle with his own reflection in the tight tussle, both the wrestling and the reflection vanish together with related reflected one. Likewise, when vision is displeased, the seer with the seen meet, and in their embrace, both lose their trace. The eastern sea and the western sea, as different seas we may see, so long as they do not mingle, but once they have intermingled, both seas lose their names and identity. There is only water and singularity. Infinite traits of seen, seer-seen are naturally and continuously emerging. Does each one need to be counted and analyzed from moment to moment? Self neither swallows particularity nor vomits unmodified generality, but as natural as opening and closing of our eyelids is the play of consciousness vibrating. Swallowing up of particularity and emerging of generality is the opening and closing of the eye of Supreme Being. Eyelids meet each other when seer-seen activity expands then, and as soon as eyelids are open slightly, this miracle disappears miraculously. At the time when the seer and the seen are consumed, and a new revival of them is not yet resumed, the intermediate state is called Yog Bhumika, which meant the intrinsic role of yoga in self-attainment. Consider the natural state of water when the wave that has arisen subsides altogether and the new one has not yet arisen. Same is the Yog Bhumika under consideration. Or when our sleep has ended but awakeness is yet not fully awakened. Consider the intermediate state to understand the fact, called as Yog Bhumika, an actless yogic act. Or it might be imagined in a way right if we think of such an eyesight which has taken away from one object altogether and has not yet begun to look at another. What does the word Yog Bhumika imply? It is similar to the state of the sky when the day has set but night has yet to wait. When the day has set and the night has yet to wait, this junction of sky's natural state is similar to the Yog Bhumika perfect. Or like when inhaled breath is exhaled, a new one is not yet inhaled. The intermediate state of the prana is similar to the natural state of the self, not touching both particular and general. Or it is like the state of a person likely to become whose all senses are enjoying their objects simultaneously. Such intermediate state between two states is called the extreme awareness of the self, in a way best. Then in such ultimate state of the Supreme Being can there be either seeing or non-seeing. What is this absurdity to say so, when there is no point in saying so, that a mirror at its own place can or cannot see its own clean surface? There is a face in front of a mirror and a face behind as a reflection there. But can that be so without a mirror when face is at its own place ever? From all sides the sun is ever shining. In other words, the sun sees everything, but can he witness the beauty of his own rising and also enjoy the beauty of his own setting? Can a juice drink itself, or from others does it hide itself? Both these things are absent there, where juice with its juiciness is present ever. He does not know seeing or non-seeing. Beyond all these attributes is the Supreme Being. As a vision himself, he himself is the cause of both happening. Being perception himself, how could he see himself? Hence, he is also non-perception. The self is existence beyond, relative perception, non-perception. If somebody with doubt argues, how can non-perception itself perceives? By becoming himself the object of perception, he perceives himself. These two, seeing and non-seeing, dwell happily together at one being. By embracing each other, they destroy each other. If perceptor self is himself perception, then how can we say that he is non-perception? Hence, he is not touched by anything like seeing or non-seeing. Like this, hiding from seeing and non-seeing, there exists the self as the Supreme Being. He sees, if at all we say that, then who has seen what? Because of the seer the visible world appears. But it does not imply that it is seen by the Supreme Seer. Independent is his existence of the world's appearance. The eyesight sees appearance, to be sure, but the appearance is in fact nothing but the seer. How can something which do not have existence be seen and called as appearance? When the seen is not different, then seeing is just apparent. Though in a mirror we see our face, but the face is with its faceness at its own place. Then what is seen is unreal. The face at its own place is only real. When at the hands of sleep one is caught, he sees himself in forms a lot. What we call is seeing is just like dreaming, where seer sees himself by becoming everything. If on a comfortable bed a dreamer dreams that he is carried away by palanquin bearer, is he really carried away or enjoying just dream play? A person without head shown his counterpart that a pauper has enthroned and playing king's part. Is this really so? We need not say no. When his sleep is over, the same person on the same bed is there. Even in his dream, there is no change in him. A thirsty man was suffering very much, as he could not find mirage water as such. But even if someone obtained, what has he gained? If a person is tired of his loneliness and wanted a company of somebody else, of what use is that if he strikes up an acquaintanceship with his own shadow and develop companionship? Similarly, in form of this whole creation, the self has become the object of perception and then revealed it to himself as a witness, but the revelation is quite meaningless. In fact, the seen is nothing but the seer. Then how can the seer benefit by that revelation ever? Is it so that the seer has vanished even when he is not revealed? Does a face become worthless ever if it does not see itself in a mirror? It is at its own place always there, even without a mirror. Likewise, if the deceptive appearance called Maya, the illusion, does not reveal the self to himself is the situation, then also the self is not diminished. Instead, importance of the illusion is finished. Hence, the self is self-perfected seer, independent of the relative seen and seer. He who is complete in himself, and himself being the vision, why should he cause himself to be an object of deception? In spite of his independent seerness, with the help of relative relationness, if the seer is revealed tautologically, the word itself proves its worthlessness conclusively. As between the rope and appearance of a snake, of course the rope is real and the snake is fake, so is the cause of the seen and the seer. Only the seer really exists, the thing is quite clear. When a mirror is held between one's face, that face appears obviously to be in the mirror in this case. But in fact, the face is in its own place ever and can never be in the mirror. Likewise, in the seer and the seen couple, the seer is the thing real. What is seen, though appears to be a perceivable entity, actually has no reality. If it is said that what is seen is falsity, but still it is seen is the reality. From this statement at least, it appears as if what is seen really exists. If one sees another, then only seen is seen by the seer. For this, there must be duality of the seen and the seer to stand in front of each other. But in the case of the self, he sees nothing other than himself, whether sees or does not see, whether he remains alone or become many. Even if shown by a mirror, a face sees only itself and no other, and even when mirror does not show the face is at its own place nevertheless. Likewise, even if the seen is not there, the self is complete in himself at his own place ever, or what is seen has revealed him as a seer. Then also the seer and the seen are not different from each other. Whether a person is asleep or awake, he is the same person without any mistake. O Lord, you are the King. There is no necessity of such acquaintance and reminding. Even without such kind of proclamation, a king is certainly a king in his position. Even if he is not reminded, Does anything from his majesty get subtracted? In the same way, the self may be revealed or not revealed. He is neither exceeded nor diminished. Because of the self is beyond revelation and non-revelation, he always remains as he is, with his self-perfected perfection. Then, under what pretext he prepares to show himself, his creation, best? Or what is an obtainable reason for showing himself this whole creation? When the seer is absent, who will see, even if mirror is present? Does the lit lamp created a person who lit it, or due to that person the lit lamp exists? Likewise, the seen in the form of the universe exists because at the base of it lies the self as causeless cause. The flame lights the fire, but can we consider it something different from fire? Whatever we call as a cause, that cause is illuminated by this causeless cause. Even if by becoming seer, whatever he sees, that seen is nothing but own nature of his. Therefore, there is no other cause for his seeing himself than himself. Whatever form appears in existence or non-existence, in existent or non-existent state of the universe, is illuminated because of his consciousness. There is nothing else here but the self, playing in his oneness. It is the gold itself which shines in the form of different ornaments or the coins, because there is nothing but goldness in both the forms, which shines in oneness. Water as a still water, and waves on the surface of water, there is nothing but water. Hence, no other matter can be seen there. No other matter will be created ever. Though its fragrance may be smelled, or its soft touch may be felt, or its moon-like whiteness may be perceived by eyesight, by any way the thing which is known alright is nothing but camphor at its own place of observer. Likewise, no matter how he experiences himself, in all experiences he illuminates himself. Whether appearing as the seen or as the seer, perceiving the seen, both roles are played by the self. Nothing else exists here besides the self. Whether Ganges flows as a river or mingles with the ocean forever, from the point of view of water, we cannot perceive any wonder. Whether it is liquid or frozen, ghee does not become something else for any reason. The form of the ghee is irrelevant. Gheeness in any form is not different. Flames and fire are two separate things. We cannot consider flame is the same as fire and is not different from it as a thing other. Likewise, whether he is the seen or the seer, both relative states do not matter. If looked at through eyes of understanding and contemplation, there is only consciousness as vibrating inspiration. From the standpoint of vibrating inspiration, there is nothing but vibrating inspiration. When the seer and the seen both are self-inspired vibration, then by seeing what he becomes seer is the question. It is not the seen that comes in front, nor does seer look backward. It is only his own vibration, we call perception. It is like ripples added to water. Gold covered itself with gold coverlet and none other. Or instead of going towards the seen, if it happens that the feet of eyesight get entangled in its own vision. Melodious words mingled with melodious deliverance, or fragrance is added to nothing but fragrance, or contentment is served to no other than contentment, or like jaggery besmeared with jaggery all over. Golden mountain is covered with gold cover, or fire winded around, by blazing flames surround. What to tell more? It is like the sky went to sleep on the bed of the space. Who is asleep and who is awake in this case? Likewise, this type of seeing himself is something like that, as if he has seen nothing. And even without seeing himself, and without any reason, he goes on seeing himself in the form of vision. Here, speech is not endured, and knowingness is not allowed. Experience even cannot walk airily, where experiencing only matters really. Hence, his seeing of himself is the type of seeing where no one seeing nothing. In brief, the self is self-illuminating. He awakens himself without awaking. Because of his desire to see himself, he manifests in various forms without any external help. Still, without breaking his natural state, he himself becomes the world of subject and object. Without seeing the mirror with self-identity, seeing is there. And even in seeing its own reflection, seeing is equal to non-seeing is the equation. If he wishes to remain without seeing, even that non-seeing becomes independent seeing, as the self is vision himself, independent of anything. Both relative seeing, non-seeing lose their meaning. Though he expands into infinite forms and names, he never loses his oneness or non-duality claim. Even in his contraction, resulting in world dissolution, he remains complete in himself with all his perfection. The sun can never catch up with the darkness, then why should he listen to talk about light and brightness? Or sun can never catch darkness in his hand, than to listen to the story of light will he take listener's stand. Let there be darkness or light in any situation, all right. The sun is sun alone, one and only one. Let there be darkness or light. The self is like sun all bright, who remains alone in his own glory. Under every condition, he is alone in his story. The self may assume any role of his own free will. He never stays from himself even for a while. In the rising and falling of innumerable waves within the ocean boundary, the waves behave. Neither waves break the line of waterness, nor ocean stays from its oceanness. The sun's rays go outward from the sun, but the self within himself plays, the sport of the world creation and dissolution. Hence, smile of the sun is not proper to the glory of vibrating knowledge, which is light all over. If the world can be filled with clothing without the cotton pods bursting, then only the smile of cotton would fit to the glory of self and his light. Without breaking a bar of gold apart, ornaments cannot be made for different body parts. Without breaking the obstruction, if one can go from this to that direction, or without crossing the intervening space, if one is able to go from one place to another place, then only proper smile can be found, for Chidvila's the play of consciousness all around. So the play of self has no parallel. He is only with himself comparable. He is eating greedily mouthfuls of his own light continually, but neither his store of light diminishes, nor the shape of his belly changes. Within himself, with himself does he play, and through his peerless play, the self is ruling his own kingdom with all his glory and stardom. If this can be called ignorance, it means all logical thinking have gone to the jungles. If someone insists on calling it so, we shall endure it quietly and patiently also. Calling ignorance to all illuminating light is like calling Anjan to a thing which is applied to eyes for treasure discovering, to the fair shining golden idol of the goddess. Do not we call Kalika, though it means no sense? Don't we call Kalika to the golden idol fair and shining, similarly calling the self-luminous light by name ignorance is merely a verbal reasoning. In reality, from Lord Shiva to the earth element, all beings and all elements are illuminated by his rays. It is because of him knowledge knows, his awareness gives rise to the sight which sees. He is the lamp self-illuminating in the form of universe, his own light he is perceiving. Who is that unreasonable man out there, pointing out this world as ignorance with a finger? His act is as ridiculous as that of tying darkness and the sun in a knot. By writing the letter A before the word Dhyan, if one acknowledges the greatness of Dhyan, then is that not an extraordinary methodology of expanding a word's meaning to convince one's ideology? What's the point of placing a fire in a box made of lacquer? It will only turn that into flames, from inside and outside all the same. The vibration of knowledge appears as the universe. Hence, it is pointless to speak about the notion of ignorance. To speak about ignorance is foolishness. It is just raving and nothing else. To utter words, I killed a cow, is in itself a sin. Act of lying is yet another sin. Likewise, to call knowledge as ignorance is in itself a guilt, and to insist on its existence is yet another guilt. Even if the word ignorance is uttered casually, its meaning is illumined by knowledge automatically. To understand the meaning is itself a vibration of knowledge. Then mustn't we acknowledge it and call knowledge knowledge? Let it be so. The Lord Self, with his self-illuminating power, has become a sovereign seer. While perceiving the universe of variety of plurality, he is perceiving himself in reality. When the searchlight of thought is focused on ignorance, it loses its apparent existence. Then how can it acquire perception and see itself as visible world exhibition? If ignorance says that it gives birth to the world, which is nothing but expansion of the knowledge worth, and tries to establish its existence by means of this interference, then the non-existence of ignorance in all the three states of reference before creation, in creation, and evolution and dissolution of the world has itself incontrovertibly proven. Because ignorance and knowledge are not things which can be correlated in the way that a substance and its quality are related. If pearls could create water, or if a lamp could be kept lit with ashes ever, then only knowledge could be quality of ignorance, which is an utter falsity. If leaping flames are emitted from the moon, or if the sky could be turned to rock or stone, then only ignorance could emit the light of knowledge all bright. It is certainly astounding that a deadly poison called Kalkut could arise from a milk ocean, but can the same deadly poison ever give rise to pure nectar? Give rise to milk so pure? Suppose that ignorance were produced from knowledge worth, that ignorance would vanish at its very birth, comes in front of the light of knowledge, then once again, except knowledge, nothing would remain. Hence, just as only the sun can be as great as the sun, the moon can be compared only with the moon. Only a lamp can have qualification of a lamp, of not allowing darkness to enter in its camp. Illuminated world and illuminating consciousness without fail understand their oneness, Admit your mistake and be so sure that the whole universe is nothing but self-luminous splendor. The Shrutis, that is Vedas, declares with all assurance that the illumination of the self is illuminating the universe, or that the illumination of the self is illuminated universe. Is it set for no reason? Get your answer from this question. Hence, the self is decorated with his own luminosity manifested. Thus, he himself is enjoying the appearance of his beauty in the form of the seer, the seen and seeing trinity, but without breaking his natural state of non-duality. To ignore this fact quite viable, and to say that ignorance makes the self able to illuminate himself in the form of the world is utterly unreasonable and play of empty words. Hence, ignorance cannot be found to exist by any means, no matter how much you persist. However, we may search for it. Our search proves futile and we have to quit. Even if all bright sun were to visit the house of night, he would find darkness not at home, though darkness claims the house of night its own home. If a person attempts to fill sleep in a cushion cover, he finds he cannot even catch wakefulness ever. He remains alone, wide awake, without being aware of his wakefulness. Likewise, in search of ignorance, relative knowledge also becomes meaningless, and what remains is only vibrating knowledge that is nothing but consciousness. Chapter 8. Refutation of Relative Knowledge. Our Gurudev has brought us to such a state that we ourselves become that self's natural state. From the point of view of experience, we have no knowledge about ignorance. To see our own state, if we attempt, that action of seeing itself becomes ashamed. That what should we do to see our own self when seeing is not of any help? The state to which Gurudev has brought us is so blissful that to contain within ourselves is impossible. As embodied self, we are not limited, nor Chit Shakti within us is stifled through unlimited. Even after attaining the final liberation, in our natural self-state, it cannot make any addition. The wordy world in which our state can be narrated has not yet been created. There is no eyesight that can see us and know by sight. By making us an object of enjoyment, we cannot enjoy us and obtain contentment. Because we do not see our own selfness, then how other will distinctly perceive our selfness? Neither manifested nor hidden. No wonder our state is beyond this description. By no means can be known the beingness of our existence being beyond all relativeness. The state is beyond all vrittis in which we are placed by Gurudev Shri Nivritti. Then why should we give it in the hands of speech, where to that state no word can ever reach? Where such state is attained by Guru's grace, ignorance dare not stand face to face. How can Maya, the illusion who is dead, become alive and stand ahead? In the city where ignorance cannot gain entrance, who will bother to know any knowledge reference? Lighting lamp at night is all right, but it will be useless, tiring effort during sunny day bright. Likewise, when there is no ignorance, knowledge also vanishes in non-existence. Both of them are perished where self's natural state is cherished and nourished. Knowledge and ignorance, both this denomination or designation. In the process of discerning their meaning, they both lose their recognition and cognition. This is like the couple desiring to exchange their heads by cutting, but the exchange is not effected. Losing their lives is resulted. Or behind a person, if lamp is lighted, no doubt of course it goes wasted. Eyesight sees darkness when that eyesight becomes useless then. Similarly, that which is utter nescience, we call it as ignorance. But by means of which everything is known, then how can we call that thing by the name ignorance after all? So-called knowledge comes at the place of ignorance. Ignorance enters in knowledge and seems to lose its existence. Disguised as knowledge, ignorance lives nevertheless, and thus, at self's natural state, both proves fruitless. He who knows does not know, and he who does not know knows. Then can knowledge and ignorance in this state have any existence? Like this, swallowing knowledge day and ignorance night, in its all-devouring, whetted appetite, the sun of pure awareness has arisen in the sky of pure consciousness. Chapter 9. A song for a Jivan Mukta, that is, liberated one. Now fragrance becomes nose, smelling its own fragrance. Words become ears, listening their own deliverance. Ears emerge from melodies, enjoying their own performance. Mirrors aroused from eyes, and eyes seeing their own appearance. Fans become a soft breeze, enjoying their own airiness. Head has become champak blossoms, dispersing fragrance from its floweriness. Tongue became delicacy, tasting its own deliciousness. Lotus became sun, blossoming itself with its own sun rays. Chakor became moon, feeding itself with its own nectarness. Flowers became bees, enjoying their own honey. Young pretty girls became young lads, enjoying their own femininity. Sleepy one became a bed, enjoying his own comfortability. The blossom of the mango tree became cuckoo, producing musical notes full of sweetness. One's body became Malayanil, dispersing fragrance and pleasant coolness. As a gold slab of vision became scenery ornaments of the world formation, decorating itself by itself. Likewise, the object of enjoyment and the enjoyer, the object of vision and the seer, all these dualities dissolved in homogeneous unity. Shivanti flower, when blossoms fully, thousands of petals are seen distinctly. They are all part of the same flower. No other source is there for them, however. Similarly, blowing a trumpet of ever new experiences is not heard in the city of actionlessness. Hence, when sense objects are sighted, after them run all the senses excited. But as soon as vision touches reflecting surface, one's vision only meets its own face. Likewise, rushing desires through senses only meet themselves. Senses and sense objects are nothing but self's vibration. All dualities dissolving in unison. A bracelet, a ring, or a necklace, whatever one may purchase, in spite of their different genders, purchaser receives the same gold and its grandeur. If we try to collect the ripples in our palms as sample, the ripples but disappear. What we collect is only water. Though to the hand its soft touch may be felt, to the eye it's a white object. When tasted by tongue, it has sweet flavor. Inside all these, the thing called camphor is known only for its fragrance, a main characteristic, and its substance, Likewise, various sense of objects and senses are nothing but vibrations of pure consciousness. Hence, when hands of senses advance to get hold of sense objects, for example, sense of hearing the ears, trying to catch what words deliver. But as soon as the contact is established, object as sense object gets vanished. Also vanishes sensuousness of senses. What remains is ever-existing consciousness. Many joints of one sugarcane in the form of juice we gain. All 16 digits of the moon are gathered in full moon day moon. As moonlight falling on the moon or raining on the ocean is no boon, so is the meaning of sense objects and the senses, in which only consciousness plays in its oneness. How much and whatever may be spoken, his samadhi of wordless silence is never broken. Even though it appears that his body performs countless actions, his inner state of actionlessness remains unaffected due to self-awareness. Stretching out the desire arms, though his eyesight embraces the charms of the objects it sees, but actually nothing at all is gained factually. Stretching out the 1,000 arms, if the sun tries to grasp darkness form, then the sun at his own place as sun will find himself and none. In hope of enjoying the enjoyment of a dream, when a person awakes and gets out of dream, and his effort to obtain the object of enjoyment, he finds only his aloneness retain. Or a lovely woman a man may meet in his dream as he desires, but finds himself lonely as before as soon as he awakens. Similarly, at the advent of the sense object, it appears as if he has become enjoyer or subject. In his case, subject and object get dissolved. His style of enjoyment can never be resolved. The moon went to collect the moonlight when, what is collected and by whom then? It is only the fruitless action of the mind to recollect the past in which nothing can be found. Pratyahar, restraining the senses and all other ascetic practices before this path fades away like the moon on a broad day. Turning back of extrovertedness and expansion of introvertedness, while performing each and every action on the self is focused his all attention. In the courtyard of duality, who serves there, but non-duality, in expansion of duality business, profit of non-duality goes on adding in excess. Higher is his state than the salvation, in which he enjoys sense objects in unison. In the house of spontaneous devotion, lover and beloved experience their sweet union. Inside his house, if walks a person, his house becomes way of his own, and if he sits at a place in relaxation, then also he has reached his destination. He may perform any action according to his free will, but he has no goal to attain and his motive nil. And even if he sits quietly without doing any action, nothing is left to be attained, being a man of perfection. Relative memory and forgetfulness do not play in this state of self-awareness. Such state and activities in it are exemptionary and also extraordinary. His own sweet will is his code of conduct. His each and every action is samadhi induct. The glory of liberation serves as an asan to his state of absolution. In this state, Lord became devotee to play. Destination itself became a way. As he himself becomes everything at his altitude, the whole universe becomes solitude. In Lord-devotee relationship, within consciousness as a whole, any one of them can play any one chosen role. Wherever he sits, he enjoys the kingdom of actionlessness and complete freedom. Temple of universe and its vastness, merged in Lord's all-pervasiveness, in such a way fine, in the state sublime, that no thought can arise of space and time. When God cannot contain in God himself, then how goddess will find room for herself? Where Lord beyond this universe swell, how can their goddess and her family dwell? Even if in this state a desire arises for the relationship of Lord worshipper, God himself plays both the roles without breaking his oneness as a whole. In this relationship, what is gained is nothing but God attained. All the devotional formalities such as jap, meditation and austerities in the world of worship are not different from godship. God himself becoming devotee worships himself as a god and in the form of offering offers himself to the Lord. God, devotee and offering are nothing but one consciousness vibrating. The temple, the idol and family of God even can be carved out of the same stone mountain. Why then should there not be devotee and deity and devotional worship in non-duality? The branches, leaves, fruits and flowers, all together we see a tree where looked at as viewer. There we do not perceive any otherness, but expansion of the same one treeness. No wonder if a dumb person observes or not a vow of silence. However, it will have no consequence. Likewise, a Jivan Mukta do not lose his godship, whether or not he worship. The goddess made out of consecrated rice, even if not worshipped, remains as an idol of rice. Then what's the point of worshipping it with rice? So also, worshipping or not worshipping makes no difference for a person realized. If we do not ask the flame of a lamp to wear the lustrous garment and to cover, will the flame of a lamp all bright ever remain without light? Even if we do not ask the moon to wear the moonshine all over, will she remain without moonlight? Fieriness is self-evident quality of fire. Then why should we consider heating it or not heating it? Hence, worship is done in worshipping. But is it not done without the act of worshipping? It's not so, for Jivan Mukta in his natural state, including him, everything is Shiv and his estate. Now devotion or non-devotion are sitting in the same feast function and extinguishing action in action lamps. They are eating from the same bowl in all illuminated camp. Hence, in such a state, all Upanishads, the sacred scriptures, are reduced to nothing but censure. But such censure, when it tries to raise the God's concept, becomes a sweet song of praise. Both praise and censure enter in silence, a fact sure. His speech is carried of supreme silence, and his speechless state is a message of peace and sereneness. He may go anywhere, howsoever, his going is pilgrimage to Shiv and nowhere. And even if he goes on pilgrimage, it is equivalent to not going, since he is himself Shiva's image. Walking or sitting is the same during. This stage seems to us amazing, but for him no wonderful thing. Whatever is seen by his vision, he enjoys nothing but Shiv darshan. If before him Shiv himself appears, it is as if he has seen nothing in particular, as there is perfect unity of God and his devotee. If ball is being bowled on its own, and then it is striked by itself and none, because of striking, it bounces back and comes in its own hand as a catch. If ever we could watch such ball and bat cricket match, then only we might be able to say something certain about the behavior of the enlightened person. Cannot be touched by the hand of action, nor can knowledge get entry with all its sanction. Such is his devotion spontaneous, from within and natural, without any effort, external and artificial. It has neither arising nor dissolving, but within itself it is vibrating and inspiring. Can the smile of worldly happiness be given to such a blissful state of spontaneous devotion? Naturalness is the wonderful secret of this devotion, in which so-called yoga of knowledge take rest by sublimation. In essence, consciousness is uniform, but even specimen of different names of form, appearing before as Hari and Har, have now shrunk here in one Parameshwar, Shiv and Shakti, better half of each other, while swallowing each other all over, swallowed up simultaneously in one mouthful everything entirely. And even the subtlest speech called Paravani, eating up all objects indicated by words so many, and drinking up the gross speeches Pashyanti, Madhyayama and Vaikhari, gone to sleep in this state without any worldly worry. O Almighty Sadguru, the fusion of Shiv Shakti, you bestowed me with sovereignty of the kingdom of perfect bliss in such a way, performing all give and take act. I am the sole actor in this play. You have awakened ever wakeful self-awareness. You laid to rest ignorance, already sleeping on the bed of absence. You brought us to the state of our own self-identity. How wonderful is your activity! We are entirely yours. Still, out of love, you call us yours. This reputation benefits you and only you, because there is no one in the world like you. Anything from anyone you do not receive, nor anything of yourself to anyone else do you give. Who knows how you enjoy your own glory? Such wonderful is your enjoyment story. Considering your Gurutva, you are the greatest of the great. But while carrying us to the further bank, you are equally light in weight. Only one who surrenders you in oneness can understand your greatness as well as lightness. By sharing the state of non-duality with your disciple, if affected your unity, then would the scriptures have extolled you with so much rapture, O generous and noble one, by establishing relationless relation and destroying our sense of duality in your way best. It's your pleasure to become our nearest and dearest. Chapter 10. Greatness of Guru's Grace took the form of book. O Shri Nivritti Narayan, by keeping your hand on my head, with sublime bliss you have blessed me. Should I only enjoy this divine joy? The great Lord has handed over the sun a key of light, however, but not keeping the light in his locker. With the same light, he illuminated the world entire. Nectar has been poured in the moon. Is it only for herself as a boon? Or were the clouds given water by the ocean to keep it with them there? The lamp's light is meant for the household cent per cent. The space in the sky is for the sake of the whole world, not one can deny. In the unfathomable sea, the tides that are surging, are they not due to the moon's power of attracting? and it is the spring season which enables trees to offer their blossoms and fruits in ample. Hence, it is entirely your unlimited generosity of your glorious divinity, without which I have no authority to become author of this work, which is Guru's gracious grace entire. But why should I give so much explanation and get in the way of my Lord's glorification? Whatever we have said here is self-evident forever. Does it really require the verbal presentation for self-luminous self-illumination? If we had kept silence, however, would not beings see each other? When one person sees another, in reality, the seen is nothing but seer. It is already self-evident fact, not requiring any proving act. There is no other secret than this about pure understanding concrete. Before it is mentioned here, it is existential truth forever. If it is said by someone as objection that there was then no need of this work to be undertaken, I would like to reply to that out of love for it. I am rendering the self-evident fact. Same object of pleasure already present, presence enjoyer, each time a new delight pleasant. Hence, this rendering of self-evident fact is of course an unobjectionable act. Therefore, there isn't any secret in whatever I said. It is divine light self-illuminated. In the one perfect capital T, we are immersed. Our all-pervadingness we have experienced. Hence, neither we conceal from anyone, nor we reveal to anyone. What can we offer ourselves in our perfect position, in the form of narration and exposition? Would the self be lost or unexposed if I remained silent and these verses were not composed? My manifested speech, Vaikhari, is of such a nature that it converted into silence even the peaceful mood of literature. This rendering is like drawing a picture on the surface of water. Even the 10 Upanishads with their elaboration have nothing to tell anything more than this exposition. When they saw this, they merged themselves here along with their knowledge and understanding entire. When Dhyan Dev says Anubhav-Amritam is glorious, he means even liberated ones should drink and become one with it by all means. State of liberation is beautiful thing for all time, but Anubhav-Amritam is purest, sweetest and sublime. Even Amrit, the conditioned timeless state of liberation, yearns for a taste of it with expectation. Though the moon is present on every night, the beauty of full moon is quite a different pleasant sight. But why should I say so when I obtained sun's vision? For sun, whether full or new moon, is same one. Because between the sun and moon, we cannot make any comparison. A young girl possesses naturally the unblossomed bud of youth intrinsically, but only when she is united with her lover, it blossoms into beautiful flower. At the advent of spring season, with fruits and flowers laden, trees with their branches kiss the sky in their dancing joyous moon high. Thus, I have arranged a feast for audience of my divine spiritual experience, in the form of whatever I said in this Anubhav-Amritam experience dripping with everlasting bliss. Liberated one, those who are in bondage and desirous, all these ability differences remain so long as they have not tasted the flavor of Anubhav-Amritam so sweet and pure. All that flow to the Ganges become the Ganges, obtaining all its sacredness, or as darkness going to meet the sun becomes one with the light of the sun. About percentage of coldness, so much can be said, only so long as metals have not been tested. By the philosopher's stone touch, after touch they all become gold as such. Likewise, person whoever will reach the sanctuary of the wisdom of the word every, like streams mingling with the ocean, with everlasting bliss they will become one. As all the 50 alphabets emerging from Om are nothing but form and expansion of the Om, so the whole animate and inanimate world is the form of self and not separate. It is impossible to point out anything with the other finger that is not God but something. All the expanse of the universe is Lord Shiv and nothing else. May everyone in the universe enjoy this everlasting bliss experience. This is Universal Festival of the whole universe. Dhyanadev prays for all living beings in the universe. Everyone may enjoy the festivities of consciousness, dissolving all differences in oneness. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki Jai.